What's up, everybody? It's July 21st, 2017, and it is the 2,874th day that the U has not beaten FSU in football. I'm doing a back to back today, believe it or not. A lot of basketball news, right? And then a couple of other stuff that I just want to ramble about, but big basketball news, but I'll do all the small stuff first. Um, Tennis, real quick. The International Tennis Federation banned Eli Nastase for foul mouth and his behavior on various players during tournaments and just off the cuff microphone, and then as well as during Fed Cup and Davis Cup. Nastase is 71 years old. I think he's getting a little ornery. You know, the older you get, the little ornery you get, and you just start saying whatever you want to say. I think he's gotten to that point. I'm not going to call him racist, but he has some strong feelings about different types of players, and including Serena Williams, where he was, uh, mocking, her being pregnant, what the child would look like because, the father is Caucasian, that sort of thing. So finally just caught up with him. So the ITF banned him from Fed Cup and Davis Cup uh, tournaments until 2019. Uh, my belief is if he's really this type of person who's just just says hateful things, and hopefully by that time he won't even want to come back to tennis. So I thought I would just put that one out there real quick concerning him. Football news: Adam Pac-Man Jones is going to be banned one game by the NFL for continually being dumb. Um, so Pac-Man, I don't get it. You either need to control your temper, stop being around places where you can't be around people, you can't deal with certain things. I think I said this before concerning uh, Elliott from Ezekiel Elliott from Dallas. Unfortunately, there are people in this world who want to try to get 15 minutes of fame, get some money off of you, be stupid. Uh, Humans, we like to think that we're the smartest species in the world, but uh, as of late, we haven't been showing that. And like I said, when there's people out there that's just trying to get you in trouble, uh, then you might want to leave that alone. You might want to stay home a little bit more. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have to stay home. You should be able to be okay with people. But like I said, I don't know if you're starting it or if they're starting it, or if you just don't have the temperament for it anymore. But at the end of the day, you got to be smarter than them. You have a career to worry about, and deal with. So, if if you can't go places where you have to deal with those sort of things, and I guess sometimes you just gotta stay at home. I thought something was interesting about O.J. Simpson. It's not anything about the trial or anything, but what I found interesting is that he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1985, and he's never been to a ceremony since. I thought that was pretty interesting nugget to have learned. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And the Hall of Fame continues to have his have an invitation, an open invitation to him to come there and participate in the festivities. But he hasn't been there in 32 years since he's been uh, since he's been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and more than likely he probably won't be there this year. Also, one little note about O.J. Simpson: his bust was actually stolen. His Hall of Fame bust was actually stolen from the Hall of Fame, and this is before they got all the security now for it, and so it has not been returned. So, a lot of interesting things, surrounding O.J. in the Hall of Fame. So, I thought that was pretty interesting. Um, Paul Gasol re-signed with my Spurs, or with the San Antonio Spurs, for a 3-year deal. The dollar amount has not been confirmed. I think they're doing like they did Tim Duncan. They're going to stretch him out over 3 years. I'd be surprised if Powell plays 3 years. But it is supposedly a contract friendly deal, which will help them sign Rudy Gay, as well as the international player. Well, yeah, the international player, and also Paul. What is his name? I feel bad because I forgot his first name. But to sign those three guys, so to help sign those three guys. So um, Powell will be back, and hopefully he's still got some gas in the tank to get some things done. I wasn't too impressed with the end. He did well during the regular season, but in the playoffs, and he wasn't doing well before he got hurt, and then he got hurt. So no, he hurt his hand, and then he came back, but he didn't look good playing. So um, hopefully that helps out and see what happens. Go from there. Um, the next story is about John Wall. John Wall has signed a 4-year extension with the Washington Wizards for the Supermax deal. The Supermax deal is what? 4 years, 170 million. For those of you who do the quick math, that's 42.5 million a year on that 4-year contract. He is also, I think he has a player option for year 4, and he also has what's called a trade kicker. I had never really investigated the trade kicker, and I decided to do that today. Trade kicker is basically an added bonus to your contract, and usually that bonus is between 5 and 15%, meaning that if the team tries to trade you, whatever the amount is remaining on your contract, they would have to pay a percentage of that as well um, to trade you. So a lot of teams use this to keep the players because it's basically like a little added bonus that other teams probably can't offer you. John Wall wasn't going anywhere. He was going to pass at 42.5 million a year. I don't think he's going to do that. I mean, he still has 37 million left on his final 2 years, and then the 4-year extension kicks in. So he actually has 18.5 million left for this year and next year. But I had a hard time believing he was going to pass at 42.5 million. Maybe the trade kickers would helped out. I don't know. But the Wizards have shown that they are trying to keep players for him. They kept Otto Porter. Uh, so I think they're trying to show that, they're trying to keep a good nucleus around him to help him have a chance to win. But the kicker really helped him out. So basically, for instance, if let's say after 2 years, after not after these 2 years, but after 2 years into the new extension, the Wizard wanted to trade him. He basically has 85 million left on the contract at that time. Let's say they did a 5% trade kicker. That means 5% of that 85 million is about 4.2 million. And so with that 85 million, that basically becomes that 4.2 million is added to that 85 million to where they would have to pay as well on that. If they went to the max of the trade kicker to 15%, then you're talking about $12 million on top of 85 million that they still would owe him. And you're talking about $12 million over the 2 years, 6 million plus the 42.5 million. Man can almost be getting 50 million a year with his new team if he got traded. The tough part about the trade kicker is that sometimes, in order to get a player traded, they would have to waive that trade kicker because the team may not want to pay that trade kicker. So sometimes it can hurt the player because if he wants to get traded, then he can't get traded because you got to waive the trade kicker in order to do that. And it doesn't seem like a lot of money if you're making 42.5 million a year, but I guess every penny counts. And then also it could be used to prevent them from being traded to a team they don't want to be traded to. And then, like I said, the team offers that trade kicker so that they can kind of raise the stakes for that player to re-sign with them. So, interesting story about the trade kicker. John Wall will be in Washington for at least 6 more years, with 37 million that he still has left on his contract. That means 207 million over the next 6 years. They'll be paying to John Wall in Washington. The big news of the day. First of all, I want to mention that the New York Knicks hired a GM, and I forgot his name, but he was an interesting character. I saw him do an interview on television, and he didn't want to answer any questions. So my thing is, why did you give somebody the opportunity? Why did you accept an interview if you weren't going to answer any questions? And it seemed like he was kind of a little lost about everything, but I just thought that was interesting. It was just the oddest interview that I thought I would that I would see. Anyway, the Knicks are in talks with Derrick Rose. I mean, not Derrick Rose. Is it Derrick Rose? No, it's not Derrick Rose. Anyway, Knicks got a lot of work to do, so we'll see what happens with that. But the story of the day: uh, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They've got problems. First of all, they promoted their assistant GM, uh, Kobe Altman, to GM, or they're in the talks to get that done. So they pretty much think that's going to be done. Mr. Altman is going to have quite a bit of situation on his hands, or a peculiar situation on his hands. And I use the word peculiar because that's what this person called the Cavs' current situation before he decided that he wants to be traded. And that name is Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving has announced to the Cavaliers that he wants to be traded. The story is that he's requested this a week ago. Nevertheless, it doesn't matter when he did it. He did request it. And the funny thing behind it is that everybody's trying to speculate why he wants this trade. It could be a number of things. He might not get along with LeBron, which would be my guess. Some people say he just doesn't want to be second fiddle to LeBron anymore. Some people say he thinks that LeBron may want to leave Cleveland after this year, so he doesn't want to be there with the sinking ship. But my thing is, if you don't want to be second fiddle to LeBron, why not stay for one more year? But the thing is, you don't know if LeBron's going to actually go, and then you could just be stuck again. Um, but he also did that this year. He wasn't sure if LeBron was going to stay, and Kyrie, that is, he wasn't sure LeBron was going to stay, and so he stayed. And so they made another shot to go after the title, and they didn't get it. So now I think Kyrie is like, I'm ready to go. See if you can trade me. Um, the interesting thing about Kyrie is that he mentioned 4 teams that he might want to get traded to. In no particular order, he mentioned the San Antonio Spurs, he mentioned the New York Knicks, he mentioned the Miami Heat, and he mentioned the Minnesota Timberwolves. I did a little research and a little homework to find out if any of these teams were feasible for Mr. Irving. And the first one I'm going to go with is Minnesota. No. They just signed Jeff Teague away from, I think it was from the Pacers. I think it was the Pacers, I think it was the Pacers. Anyway, I forget where he came from, but anyway, they just signed him, so that's not going to happen. Be odd to sign somebody and then go trade him to somebody else. So I don't think that's going to happen. The Heat, they have Gordon Dragic, who they just signed last year, the year before. Not sure they're going to do that with Gordon Dragic. So and I think so I don't think it's going to happen in Miami. San Antonio, too many moving parts. I don't think it's going to happen there as well. That's the first part I looked at it. It will require moving some people. I don't think they're going to trade Patty Mills. They just re-signed him, but he would have to be included in a deal for the Cavs. Also, you're probably talking about the rookie point guard, and that's White. I think White would have to be included in that deal. Not necessarily Mills with him, but a rookie point guard. I would throw in Danny Green. That's $10 million off the books that you got to get off the books anyway if you're going to pick up Kyrie, which I think Kyrie is around 15, 16 million. So you would have to throw in Danny Green. And then, is a possibility a big could get dealt. Could it be Powell? Could it be LaMarcus Aldridge? Now, to move either one of those, then you have to make a decision about, well, what about Kevin Love? You can't move Aldridge. You can't move Aldridge to Cleveland. What will Cleveland do with Kevin Love unless you're going to swap him? And then you got Paul Gasol. He's a center. He ain't going to be a backup. So what are you going to do? You're not going to move Tristan Thompson. Cleveland is not going to get older to get rid of Kyrie Irving, at least in that particular perspective. The only realistic thing that I could see is trying to get rid of Danny Green, throw in the rookie point guard, and then give him a draft pick. I wouldn't prefer to give him a draft pick this next draft, maybe the next one. But hell, whatever you got to do, you go ahead and do it. But I don't think Mills and Green Mills and a big would be necessary. As long as it fits the numbers. I don't know the actual numbers, but I figure with Danny Green and the rookie and the draft pick, I think that covers the 15 to 16 million for Kyrie. Patty Mills doesn't need to be traded. But Patty Mills does pose a problem. You have Tony Parker, who wouldn't be due back until January at the earliest. You just signed Patty Mills. If you get Kyrie Irving, Patty Mills becomes a backup anyway. So what do? Maybe you do trade Patty Mills. You know. So when people say, "Oh, Spurs," nah, it's gotta work right, and Pop has loyalty, and so that's gonna be a hard thing to do. I just don't see it happening. But me, I'm a shrewd GM. I'd make the move in a minute. You trade Patty. You got the rookie there. You still got Murray. You got Murray. You got the rookie White, which you probably may still have to give up. Matter of fact, I would give him Mills, White, and Green. But hey, I don't know. But anyway, to get Kyrie, you have to do that. Then the question is, you got Kyrie. Is Tony Parker okay with being second fiddle now? Manu was okay with it, but is Tony Parker okay with it? If you can get Tony Parker to be okay with it, then you're really great because you got a Hall of Famer as your backup. So that's what I would be trying to sell. Tony Parker being the backup. I wouldn't care about Mills. If he has to be thrown in the deal, that's what I do. I'd rather throw in Mills and Green and a draft pick, and then I can still keep my future. I can still keep White. I can still keep Murray. Yes, I'll have 4 point guards, but with Tony Parker probably retiring after this year, which would be my belief, then I'm not worried about anything. So, but Danny Green comes in any package. So that would be the trick there. Lastly, we're talking about the Knicks. Would they be interested in trading for Melo and giving them Kyrie? It'd be a bad move for Cleveland because you're talking about an aging Melo. You still got a young Kyrie. You lose your point guard. Now, unless you are serious of trying to sign Derrick Rose, this is where the Derrick Rose situation comes in. There's been rumors that the Cleveland's trying to sign Derrick Rose. If you can get Derrick Rose, then you can make the trade for Melo. Now, is it necessarily good? No. Why? Enough ball. You already got Kevin Love, who's temperamental sometimes when he's playing. Tristan Thompson's going to take more time off. He's going to take more games off, more minutes off. I don't think he's been playing to his contract. But LeBron and Melo get along great. Now, here's the other problem. LeBron and Melo play the same position. So they could be a big starting five. You could have Thompson, you could have Love, power forward, you can have Melo as a small forward, or you could have LeBron as a small forward and then either or as a shooting guard. That would be bananas because of LeBron's handle and the way he facilitates the ball. He could play shooting guard. Can you imagine a 6'9", 250, 260 shooting guard? Locomotive. I'm getting no better than that. Shooting might be a little streaky, but it fits in there. And then if you can get Derrick Rose, but Derrick Rose has to stay healthy. What do you have behind Derrick Rose? So if he gets traded to any of these teams, if Kyrie gets traded to any of these teams, I gotta say the Knicks. I am not sure that Pat Riley would want Kyrie after he did so much a couple of years ago to get Goran Dragic. But you never say never with Pat Riley. But that would be interesting. The only two I think he would actually get traded to out of this list is the Heat and the Knicks, and I put the Knicks at the front. Spurs, I would put third because they have some moving parts, and Cleveland just has to want the moving parts if they want it. Timberwolves, I say no because they just traded for Jeff Teague. And then you're talking about money. Minnesota's going all in. You get Kyrie. Kyrie's got 3 years left on his contract. I think they're going to resign. They just re-signed Andrew Wiggins, or they're working on to re-sign him 4 years. I think he's trying to do 4 years, 148 million. You got Jimmy Butler on a high contract. Nah, that's too much money. And it's gonna, if not, and if that works for Minnesota, it's you're shooting for the stars. But in 2 years, they're going to break it all up. Minnesota's going to break it all up. They've always been cheap. You remember the flip side this year's? They're still cheap, but they figure, hey, we got a nice nucleus. Maybe we want to try to get in the fray for a chance at a good chance at trying to win. And this is what they're doing. They're taking a shot at it. I got Minnesota last as possible trade options, but don't put it past them. If they really want him, they got to give up Jeff Teague, but they probably got to give up some young guys. Either some drafts, some future draft picks, or maybe some players they just drafted as well. So, and that's the thing you have to look at. Cleveland, I'm not sure they know what they're doing or what they want to get, what they want to do. So I'm not going to say, hey, Cleveland's going to try to get draft picks from everybody. Nah, but the teams will try to sweeten the pot with draft picks. You got to. You got to make sure that you match what you're giving up for them. Melo for Kyrie, that kind of evens up a little bit. Even though Melo's like, I think he's making 10 million more a year than Kyrie. So the Knicks probably have to sweeten the pot with something. So that would be there. San Antonio, as I mentioned, they want to try to include Danny Green in any trade, but I think it would have to be a third party because Danny Green's a shooting guard. And Cleveland already has J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert. They're not great shooting guards. They all lack a problem. Danny Green, not a consistent shooter. J.R. Smith, not a defender. Shumpert, not a shooter. So he had all kinds of problems there. And that's just too many guys. And so, you know, like I said, unless San Antonio's, I don't know what else they can do because for me, I got to put Danny Green in the equation. Or you throw in Patty Mills, maybe the point guard that you just drafted in the draft pick. Hey, but I'm just fishing. I'm just seeing. So more on that to see if anything happens. If anything happens, I'll let you know. But I thought it was interesting to talk about it today, so I did it. And I was doing a little bit of brainstorming, so that's the reason why I went ahead and gave you guys an update today. Nevertheless, if anything goes on, I'll hit you up and let you know. In the meantime, take care, God bless, and free Colin Kaepernick. Peace.